it was there in Mount Ida College in Newton, Mass in 1995 when Pete from Maine, and we had nicknames for everybody, Pete from Maine said, come and check this out. And I heard coo for the first time. Dial up. And I said, the fuck is this? And he's like, this is the World Wide Web. And I was like, I heard about that shit. And this is how, for the kids that are listening, this is how crazy the internet was in 94, 95. I waited my turn to get on the computer to go on AOL. It was so crazy, this thing, like being on the internet and seeing people in chat rooms, that I watched it as a spectator while my man was on the keyboard. And I finally, like an hour later, sat down and clicked a couple buttons and found myself on a baseball card bulletin board in AOL. And about 7 minutes into my internet life, which was this, I said, this is gonna change my life. Straight up, just like that, like straight out of a fucking movie. And that started the conversation in my head, which led to 6 months later saying to my dad, we need a website for the liquor store. We didn't have a computer. My dad didn't take credit cards. Like, he was old school. Yeah, I was born in the Soviet Union. He's like cash only, doesn't trust people, like wouldn't take checks, doesn't believe in anybody, like, you know, like all that stuff. Like, and I got him there. I just completely knew the same, you know, it's funny. The one skill I really have is my intuition about things and people is heavy. Like, it's just really my biggest thing. So like literally looking at the internet or looking at the investments I made, Facebook, Twitter, Coinbase, or the fact that I bought Bitcoin in 2014 is no different than me thinking that Gunna or DaBaby were gonna be good, or that I thought Alvin Kamara was gonna be a good player when we started Vayner Sports, even though he was the backup running back at Tennessee. There's something in me that understands people and understands what people are gonna do. And that's been my whole life. Like, if I was an A&R guy, I would dominate. If I was a scientist, like looking at spiders for 20 years in the woods, I would figure it out. Like, that's my thing. And so that's what happened with the internet. That's how it started. And my mission in my 20s, came to this country with nothing. I was born in Russia, lived in a studio in Queens with like 8 family members. Like, I grew up rugged. Like, my mom was frugal and didn't have money. So I was like, if I wanted Nintendo, if I wanted stuff, I had to buy it as a kid. So I'd always fight for money and business. And my number one goal was to help my parents' liquor store business. Like, I gave up my 20s, all of my 20s, man. When kids talk to me about like, I'm like, I gave up all my 20s to build a business for my parents. I left with 0 ownership of that business. And I blew that business up from 3 to 60 million. And sometimes people try to rag on me like, you got handed shit. I'm like, you think that's what happened. Let me tell you the truth. I took a business from 3 to 60 million, never got paid shit, because in the family business, you put it all back in the business. So it's one thing if you make money for somebody else in a corporation, but at least you get paid $1 million a year. I was getting paid 50, 60, 70,000 a year, building a big ass business. And at 34 years old, left and had to start my company in somebody else's conference room, VaynerMedia, in Buddy Media's conference room, because I didn't have the money to pay rent. When you're the CEO, when you're the founder, the conversation that's not being had, everybody sees all the nice things that come along, but every single thing that happens in this company that's wrong is my fault. Every snarky comment on social, every kind of like sad face, every email bullet points every Friday I get bullet points from tons of VaynerMedia employees, and 80% of them have a bullet that's like, Rick is stretched too thin and is crying in the bathroom. It's devastating. It's very tough to be at the top of something, even when it's going great. Vayner's going great. This is not even like, Wall Street collapsed and we lost a lot of clients and we have to have layoffs. Like, this is like, we're rolling and we're the best and we're crushing, and there's always things to worry about, because that there's no, it's India's fault. Everybody here at some level, all the way up, can still say, it's Gary's fault. I can't. And when you say it's my fault, there's a really tough burden emotionally, forget about financially, that comes along with that. And so I think it can get very lonely. You do recognize, it's amazing to me, for as much of a communicator and extrovert as I am, how much I keep in my own mind, how much is going on in this noggin every day, calculating, strategizing, thinking, and there is no vacations. I desperately love national holidays, and like I can't wait for Christmas and Thanksgiving because everybody else is checked out, and that's the only time that I'm able to be off. I have my 40th birthday coming on Saturday. I'm going away with my family. This is an incredible moment in my life, and I will not be able to be 100% checked out because in those, in that Friday and that Monday, the world is moving. This world is moving. My responsibilities are moving, and I'm always one phone call away from a fire that I have to address. It is a very intense, lonely place to be at the tippy top. And so when you think about, I always think about like, is life fair, right? There's always things that happen, there's things that we can't control, but the notion of like, somebody getting compensated a lot of money for things that do I think somebody making $20 million a year to be an athlete or an actress? We never talk about actresses and actors, right? We love to zing on athletes, but like actors make, like the big ones make like $15 million to make a movie. But still, at the end of the day, it's because they command the market, people want to pay attention, and there's an enormous amount of pressure. As I've lived my life and started spending some time with A-list celebrities, their life is, it's intense. Like I really secretly think that I could be an A-list celebrity. That I literally could go on TV and be a breakout hit, like in a Mad Money kind of like, not like Jennifer Lawrence, I just don't have the looks, but in a Mad Money kind of like Regis, kind of like Andy Cohen way. But man, real celebrity status is intense. You just have nowhere to go, and so there's that, or an athlete where like the physical shape that you have to, 10 hours a day of putting in that time. People look at the outcomes, they don't think about what's coming along with it, and the pressure to know that if I get hit wrong, that my entire life collapses, especially an athlete, that's a short window. Or the pressures that we've said. Look, I don't think it's a coincidence that some of the greatest artists of all time pass away in their mid-20s because of the intensity. It's intense. It's very lonely, and so it can be extremely lonely. Ironically, and you'll find this wild, I want random extra people in the room. I love being around people more than anything, but I'm also very comfortable in my own being one-on-one with myself. So I'm good, but I know that I'm emotionally stable as fuck, and it's intense for me. I can't imagine people that are not as fortunate as I am, pulling from both directions, ambition, but humility, do you know how content I am? Like a lot of people watch this show and you hear I want to buy the Jets and you misunderstand really where I'm at. Like I want it all and I want to win the whole thing, but if I never win again, if I plateau at this level, there's an amazing amount of content in my body for all my hunger. And that balances me, but I couldn't imagine if that was tweaked just a little bit, if I really felt the pressure, because there's enough pressure from a day in and day out standpoint. It's intense. I think people say it. I think much like stereotypes or statements, there's always so many truths to it. I think the reason so many people say the road is lonely, because to really be successful in the context of business especially, you've got to make 7,000 to 7,000 decisions that are critical, and you can only make them with yourself, and it's an intense moment on a daily basis.
So this is pre-social media. So what strategies are you using to build a company from 3 to 60, right? Because internet is just becoming a thing.
Yep. Back then it was email and Google AdWords that really took me off, right? And banner ads. People used to click banner ads, kids. Yeah. I would buy a banner ad for $500 a month on a website like a winespectator.com, and people clicked that shit. Back then everyone was curious about everything. Like banners were like, oh, cool. It was kind of like cool. You're like, oh shit, takes me somewhere else. Like, again, I'm talking like it's 100 years ago. It's only 25 years ago, but it's like it's a lifetime ago.
Yes,
there was no cell phones. It was crazy. There was no laptops. You had to sit at a fucking desk to be on the internet.
This feels like a scene in the Wreck-It Ralph movie where he's just pressing.
But so banner ads being, a little early social called forums. Remember bulletin boards and messenger boards?
Yeah.
So I was part of those, all the wine boards. They're like, why do you know so much? Oh, I own, or my family owns, or my dad and I run this place called Wine Library. Check it out, winelibrary.com. 2 clicks, 5 clicks, like real like bricklaying, you know? And then I figured out email in 97. I was like, okay, this is gonna be big. And so I just started asking every customer that came into the liquor store, you got an email? And this, again, back to the old days, 25 years ago, people were like, yeah, I got an email. It's AOL@yahoo.com. Email. You know, like but it was crazy. Luckily, the store was in Jersey, where a lot of people worked in Wall Street, and the Wall Street cats had email pretty early. And so, you know, started getting that Wall Street clientele. And that really started changing our business. But catalogs, I did catalogs, direct mail, newspaper, full page ads in the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and Star Ledger in Jersey. Big shout out when I was, you know, when I made a couple bucks and was able to put them on. You know, it was all family immigrant businesses are. You don't take money out to buy shit. You put it back into business, back into business, back into business. So one of the reasons I never really amassed a lot of money during that time was my dad wasn't paying me or him any real money. Every dollar was back into advertising, back into more employees, back. And so we were feeding. One of the reasons I tell a lot of entrepreneurs now, like, feed your business. You know, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur to take it out and buy a fucking Rolly, and right, and buy a Bent, and buy like some. And I'm like, no. Don't flex yet. You just started. Put it back in. Your watch will be more expensive. Your trip will be nicer. Your flying accommodations will be better, but you got to feed your business for a minute.